Greetings, I'm Charles. I'm 55 years old. I'm 6'1" when I'm fully assembled and weigh about 230 pounds. Today I'm going to talk about when is it time to retire this prosthetic liner. What I have issued to me is a pin system type prosthetic liner. It has kind of a rubbery type compound. The whole outside of this has some elasticized type fabric. Now, retiring one of these things, well, actually they'll last a heck of a long time, and you see they can get pretty ratty over time. This elastic bands break and it gets kind of ratty here. It'll lose a little bit of its compression. Over time this will compress also, so if you compare the thickness of this to a brand new one, this is likely to be noticeably thinner just because of compression over time. One of the things that I attempt to do is rotate these things out, so that I use one day, and as I got more liners I would include those into the rotation, so I'd use up to 4, 5, or 6 liners in a week. You know, if I just used one a day, I'd still use 6 liners in a week, something of that nature. And it'll help these to recover much better, kind of like when you don't wear the same shoes all the time. You know, if you wear alternating tennis shoes, even if they look exactly the same, they're likely to last 3 times as long, not just 2 times as long. So that's one of the things I want to do with the rotating these prosthetic liners. Alright, now the main thing that I want to talk about is when we're retiring these things. Obviously, if you break one or tear one, you can't use that anymore, or if this material becomes really dried out and cracked, like a lot of people's material just gets dried and rough, then obviously you don't want to use that liner anymore. But just because it looks kind of ratty on the outside and it doesn't necessarily, you know, yeah, you can still use it. It's usually covered up with socks and stuff anyway, so you really can't tell. But one of the issues I wanted to point out, and I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, is I have this liner that I'm about to put on here, or take off, or show for demonstrations actually, is this cracking on the inside. Over time, these things may not necessarily dry out, but there's cracking along the edge here, and as this it's hard to see a lot of times. I can see it because it's doubled over and it's stretched out and all of that, but as I roll it down it kind of disappears. I mean, you can't see any cracking here, and if I just turn it inside out, that cracking is not noticeable at all, but it is when I put it on. And the reason I'm pointing this out is you know, depending on your situation, how often you have breaks in your skin and that sort of thing, you may want to go ahead and retire this, because those little cracks are going to be very, very difficult to clean and sanitize, disinfect. So especially if you're prone to infection, or you're prone to have open wounds under your liner, you might definitely want to go ahead and consider retiring that particular liner. I know it's very difficult if you're limited to what insurance will pay, or you know, just limited in pricing or whatever. You may not be able to replace them as often as you would like. That's one of the reasons I'd say take advantage of any time you can get new ones. Go ahead and get them, because you'll never know when you might tear one, or one will start cracking, or you'll get these little micro cracks in here, and it'll make it virtually impossible to clean them as well as you'd like to. I hope that information was helpful for you.